Hello and welcome to my second video on how I run demi-humans in Dungeons & Dragons. And for this video I want to talk about the elf and how I run the elf in Dungeons & Dragons. So, as I mentioned before, I like to try and keep my games of Dungeons & Dragons as simple and straightforward as possible. Yes, an elf could have loads of abilities, loads of things, but I like to keep it simple. So, how do I play an elf? Well, like a dwarf, an elf has a level 8 maximum. Out of interest, just curiosity, how tall are my elves? Well, I sort of make them comparable to humans, so it's 5 foot plus d8 inches, and with a female it's probably 5 plus d6 inches. For starting abilities, Strength and Con are rolled on 3d4, which makes the elf very weak. Dex and Charisma, 3d8, which makes them pretty strong in these abilities, and Charisma is very useful against the undead, as I explained in my previous videos. They also get a +2 to knowledge. So, hit point gain is d6, and hit point maximum is blank. Outdoor advantage. Now, just like the dwarf had an underground advantage, an elf gets a +1 to all rolls outdoors, be that combat, climbing, anything outdoors, they get a +1. Now, an elf may spellcast, just like in the book. However, in my games, an elf can only retain spells up to half their knowledge, which is how I use intelligence, knowledge or intelligence. So, although a magic user, they can only have half the spells. If you want to know more about that, go and see my video on spellcasting. Elves have a strong magical resistance. They have +1 to saves, and they have an immunity to sleep and charm spells. Elves, like dwarves, also have the specialist enemy of orcs, goblins, trolls and dragons, and they have +1 to hit and damage against these creatures. Elves have a peculiar thing in my game, which I call Iron Weakness. Now, in my games of Dungeons & Dragons, often trolls and things have iron weapons, and elves are vulnerable to iron, so if they're struck with an iron weapon, they get +2 wounds. And finally, as a little quirk, like with the dwarves, I allow my elves at level 3 to brew healing potions. However, these are slightly more powerful than the dwarvish ones. They have a d10 to healing. And that is essentially how I play elves. Thank you very much.